Fellas,
What's up, Brad?
I have an admission to make.
Ooh.
I don't think I'm up for this anymore.
What do you mean?
No, I signed a new agreement. I'm going to continue to do the podcast. What I mean is this. I've lost sight how to make any sense out of what is happening, not only nationally, but locally. I'm being quite serious. I've lost to the point where I have to do some self-examination. Is it me? For example, look at the cover of the Minnesota section of today's Star Tribune.
I have it right here.
All right, the Minnesota section, what we used to call the B section, the Metro.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. What's the principal headline? The
City
play
police,
headline.
City police charter change progresses.
City police charter change progresses.
Oh.
Oh, my
All right.
God.
Now, what's the headline below that with the big picture?
Bill for pretrial fencing at $1 million so far.
I think I know what you're going to say. I think I know what you're going to say,
Rook,
Joe.
you're already in his head?
I'm already in his head.
Okay, say it for me.
Why does it cost $1 million for us to put up fence? Don't we have fences already in Minneapolis? And don't we have boards and stuff in a big warehouse?
Not even remotely what I was going to say.
We're becoming farther apart, sir.
Yeah.
I think it's the irony that they can't see right at the end of their own nose that we have to spend $1 million on fencing while we continue to try to disband the police.
And I'm so grappling with that I am at
Kenny, hit it.
I am at a roadblock, Kenny and staff. I don't know where to go with this. The 13 city council members are quite literally so tone deaf to what's happening in the city that they're proceeding apace with their goal of getting rid of the police department to be called something else because they're going to pretend that means there won't be any police. While at the same time, the city keeps strengthening its fortress-like characteristics for a trial that God knows will bring how many of the aggrieved to Minneapolis. And I keep going back to this. The intersection of 38th and Chicago is a microcosm of the behavior of the city council. They have such fealty to the inhabitants of 38th and Chicago that they do not have the political will to open the intersection. They have allowed it to be controlled by unelected people who quite literally run that square block. You can't go in there without their permission. Even if you're a cop, they don't let you in there. They run it, and the city council has failed to do anything about it. Now let's take it to macro. Let's say the trial brings in, 5,000 professional thugs from Portland and Philadelphia and Seattle. What if they want to create an autonomous zone of 6, 7, 8 square blocks of downtown Minneapolis?
They'll be allowed to do so.
What if they turn Nicollet Mall into an autonomous zone?
Yeah, they will.
You
They'll let 'em.
already have evidence that the city council, A, doesn't know what to do about that, or B, wouldn't do anything about it.
You're setting a precedent where, come on down.
At the same time, I'm sure the Star Tribune doesn't even know the irony of its own layout of this page. And the Star Tribune, I'm sorry, it's been a tremendous disappointment to me in championing their city. They don't champion their city. Today's lead editorial on a day when you have city police charter change is progressing, and then below that, we've spent $1 million so far on new fencing for the trouble we anticipate. The lead editorial today in the Star Tribune is Hennepin County steps up for the climate, with more of this absolute nonsense about, more bike lanes on county roads and this and that and the other, more electric vehicles, because Minneapolis is going to lead the way in saving the earth. Star Tribune, Minneapolis can't even lead the way to save its own city.
Right.
It can't save its own city. Now, somebody please answer me this question. If you can't open 38th in Chicago, what evidence do we have that downtown will be kept safe from takeover?
Well, I think they already know it's not safe from takeover, hence the $1 million fence.
Well, all the $1 million fence does is provide egress to the Hennepin County Courthouse, so you can have this trial. It does nothing to prevent. It does nothing to prevent these highwaymen from establishing their own fiefdom on 6th and Hennepin.
Right. And that's what that
I don't get
38th
it.
in Chicago thing is, Joe. It's an autonomous zone.
Right,
That's what
exactly.
it is.
Exactly.
It's just not being called that, but it's the same thing that happened in Seattle.
You citizens of Minneapolis, I don't. Part of my being lost is I no longer how to tell the citizens of Minneapolis. I don't know how to tell them to push back. The only pushback would be a completely different cast of council members and a completely different mayor, and we're not seeing that on the horizon.
No, and it won't happen. It won't happen.
Well, then I do continue to believe. I'll soften my language. Yesterday I was saying I think the trial will be the end of Minneapolis. I'm going to change that to I think the trial and its attendant protest could very well be the end of Minneapolis.
What's next? What with the end of Minneapolis? What does? We'll still have a
Richfield,
city.
I'll answer your question. Richfield, Bloomington, Golden Valley, St. Louis Park, Roseville. That's what's next. St. Paul, West St. Paul, South St. Paul. That's what's next. It's
we're gonna push
spreading
back.
like cancer. It doesn't matter if you in South St. Paul push back if they've completely taken over the 7-county area. This is moving outward. It's not stopping with Minneapolis. Moving to Richfield won't help matters.
And you know what the thought that I always have, Kenny, when I drive to and from this building? They're building that new line that's going down to Eden Prairie. Well, that's going to result in nothing but trouble coming that way as well.
Well, what I mean by the end of Minneapolis, or what right now Minneapolis is hanging on by a thread. Is that a reasonable statement?
No, it's not. They're not hanging on anywhere close to a thread.
You really think it's
hanging-
worse than that?
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, hanging by a thread would give me hope. There's no hope.
All right. Well, then what the utter ruination of the city would mean is that it would no longer be a center of commerce. It would no longer be a center of culture. It would no longer be a center of dining and music. It would no longer be the grand, illuminated, beautiful skyline that it has been. It will continue to become boarded up and increasingly vacant. That's what I mean by the end of the city. Right now, there is no reason to go downtown. Zero.
I'm trying to recall the last time I was in downtown Minneapolis.
I was Sunday. I went Sunday to look at myself, to look for the fence.
That's what I was going to say. I was there a week ago doing the same thing Joe did on Sunday.
Okay, but so that's what I'm talking about. You that was a destination for you because you wanted to see it with your own eyes.
Right.
But prior to that, you had no you weren't conducting any business. You weren't going to Murray's. You weren't going to, it's.
Yeah, you didn't spend any money there. Right, exactly.
No, I haven't. I can't tell you the last time I spent any money in downtown Minneapolis.
And Chris and Joe, you're both right. This all depends on the Twins, the Timberwolves, the Vikings, and every other big company down there. They all need to shake the rafters here with these idiots in charge.
Well, and not to get too deep in the weeds with sports talk here, but Glenn Taylor is trying to sell the team. And I wonder how much of this is playing into that.
Well, he's been trying to sell the team before the pandemic and before George Floyd.
Right. But as I said yesterday, the downturn of Minneapolis has been taking place over the last half decade.
And here's the deal. Let's go down that road, Joe. He's not going to sell it to anybody that's going to keep that team in downtown Minneapolis. We'll be lucky if they keep it in the state, but let's face it, sell and move.
Well, he has. We're all presuming that he would only sell it to someone who would keep it here.
That is what he hopes, yes.
I can't see anyone emerging under these current conditions to accept that proviso.
Especially when,
Pole ads that already own a team?
I don't know why in the hell the poll ads would waste their money.
Especially
See,
when
this is why yesterday, Joe, this is more bleak talk from yesterday. And this is why we need to get in touch with somebody who thinks the opposite of what we think. Show us that light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, let's try this. Joe or Mayor, if you're reading this, I'm assuming you're not retired and still fighting the good fight. We were just having fun with that yesterday.
Right.
I don't even understand the concept of retirement. And I'm surrounded by really close friends, all of whom are retired. And I just can't see myself that way. I'd have to take a microphone out onto a street corner and start jabbering.
I'm with you. I want you to stick around a little bit.
Joe, if you're reading this, I'm assuming you're not retired and still fighting the good fight. I have some deep thoughts about the question you've been asking, what is the end game, or what do they want or expect to happen? The answer is simple, but quite depressing. I begin with the following familiar quote from C.S. Lewis from God in the Dock, Essays on Theology. I happen to love C.S. Lewis. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep, but his cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. They may be more likely to go to heaven, and yet at the same time likelier to make a hell of earth. This very kindness stings with intolerable insult. To be cured against one's will and cured of states which we may not regard as disease is to be put on a level of those who have not yet reached the age of reason or those who never will, to be classed with infants, imbeciles, and domestic animals. The end game is power, power to control others' lives. The imperfect world needs to be made perfect, and if we would only do what they say, we can move towards perfection. It doesn't matter if our ability to choose is removed, as this is a feature, not a bug. It is because the world is imperfect, and there is suffering, and things aren't equal, and things not fair, that must be made fair. This applies at every level, from the proverbial community dog catcher to the presidency. Mysterians cannot abide anything that would hurt feelings. Like young children learning about fairness, they cannot abide anything they deem unfair and must rectify it. Critical theories, of which critical race theory is a subset, demand that every situation be evaluated. If unfairness exists, it must be rectified. To fix it, the person observing it must have power to enforce their will. If you ask a Mysterian what the end game is, they will say it is to make the world better, more fair, more equitable, or as you put it, equal outcomes, more just. But to get there, they must have power. C.S. Lewis explained best, and I repeat a portion of his quote again. Those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. It is power. The end game is power. They'll tell you it's to make the world better, but this is impossible. I think they know this, but they like power and will do anything to get it and keep it. Good luck. Harold from Fresno, California.
Well, those are some dark thoughts, but can't disagree with them.
Well, I can't disagree
you?
with. I would never disagree with C.S. Lewis.
all right.
Well, this is a great Friday.
No. Despite my struggles, I would continue to try to help. Look, that perfectly captures, I think, the 13 members of the city council tormenting us for our own good. They appear to know better, even though they have no basis in life. They have no life experiences. They're just community activists who have taken advantage of a fact that nobody gives a bleep, apparently, in Minneapolis about turning out good candidates and getting them into office. Yep. So they've capitalized on that. But to see the way they live is evidence of the belief they have the approval of their own conscience. They're not part of us. They're not part of the community.
No.
You don't see them at a restaurant you go to. You don't see them at the movie theater. You don't see them at church. You don't see them on the golf course. You don't see them anywhere. They're their own rail of life independent of the rest of us.
Let me share a quick story, and Rick, you're going to have to help me here. This is from WJON in St. Cloud. Were they an affiliate of ours back in the day?
I think KNSI was.
Okay. This is from WJON in St. Cloud. Benton County commissioners want more time to research a mutual aid plan before sending sheriff's deputies to help with security during the Derek Chauvin murder trial. Commissioners voted 4-0 with one abstention to further review the mutual aid agreement and ask surrounding counties whether they are sending officers to help. Commissioners also voiced some concerns about the Minneapolis City Council's efforts to defund the police department amidst the need for extra officers during the trial. The board will revisit the request again at their March 16th meeting. So here you have, and by the way, St. Cloud has their own problems right now with crime and everything else. So now because of the dysfunction of what's going on in the city of Minneapolis, now you're going to take officers from other jurisdictions who are probably already swamped with crime.
They've got their own trouble on Division Street.
Exactly. That's the trickle-down effect that you were talking about, Kenny.
I can pile on top of this even more, Chris, and you won't see this in either newspaper, and you won't see it on any of the TV stations. Philippe has gone above and beyond at mocking the outstate police departments and sheriff's departments and stating how he doesn't want them here because they don't understand how to deal with, basically, in my words, minorities.
Right. He's calling them stupid is what he did.
You're kidding me. I missed that.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm glad you saw it, Joe. So
I did. I read it. He's calling them stupid.
Wow.
So he actually
This guy couldn't put two sentences together.
just gonna
He has
say.
no idea what he's talking about.
I was just going to say he actually said something though that had not value, but
The police chief's role is to be
Not this.
able to have a vision of what it means for us to have a strong focus on what should police be focusing on.
Groin kick him again just to make me feel better.
He
Just
called
groin kick him again.
outstate officers stupid. I got to get the old sounder here because he's getting the full Monty is what he's getting.
Give him a groin kick.
Oh, he's going to get the crowd, the intro, the whole works.
That deserves this.
And he's making an assumption that there are no people. I don't know. I hate using the term people of color because to me it sounds like I'm saying colored. So I'll just go with minorities or black people. But we've got everybody out here. We've got black people. We have Mexican. Everybody's represented out here, just not in the numbers we see in the metro.
Well, the other thing he's saying, this is a version of him expressing his ideological fealty to the protesters. In other words, I'm such a champion of the protesters because I'm tormenting you with the approval of my own conscience because I know them to be victimized and I'm here to solve that and to save it. And so he's saying to outstate police people, you don't know what you're doing because you don't have an appreciation for the devotion I've expressed to the protesters.
so seeking a commonality with the protesters so they're bonded.
The closer you get to the country's tallest buildings, we're rolling now. The closer you get to the country's tallest buildings, the more evidence you find of the C.S. Lewis quote, that we are politically led by people completely detached from us, but attempting to govern us with their own beliefs in how the world should be, rather than accommodating us as citizens all in this together. Didn't know I was going to be this good today for starting so
You can
confused.
pat yourself on the back for that one, yeah.
This is
Never
ridiculous.
Never mind that they can't keep the snow plowed, the potholes fixed, the sidewalks
Right.
updated. They can't even provide the basics of human public safety. They can't even do that. Not only can they not do it, they are refusing to do it.
They have spent a year being very vocal. I'm not making this up. They have spent a year expressing publicly their contempt for their own police force, to the point where they want to be rid of it. On the same page as you're showing me, like I'm supposed to be proud of it, $1 million worth of fencing, the price tag going up. They live in a world that has nothing to do with us. Nothing. And I'm speaking to black people too, by the way, because I've told you for 100 years, quit expecting these people to do you a favor. They never have.